9.11 is geometric mean and altitude to hypotenuse, which we've seen that in the last lesson. The difference is in this one that we're literally going to have the altitude either being asked for or given to us. There's a little shortcut here, but before I talk about that, it says given right triangle ABC with altitude BD. We talked about that's just from the top point of something dropped down so that it's perpendicular, kind of with the ground like a mountain's altitude. And then they have things labeled. We're trying to figure out what is the length of AC, which is this whole length here. Okay, and so what I went ahead and did, because we've talked about this before, is when I have an altitude in a big triangle, that actually creates not only the big triangle, but a similar medium and small triangle. The big one, I went ahead and flipped it up so that B is the right angle. Up to A would be the short leg, and then over to C. So you got to picture that. The medium one is actually the same orientation, where here's the 90, D, up to the short leg B, and then C. And then the little one just needs to be flipped 90 degrees clockwise. So the right angle's at D, up to the short leg A, and then to B. So that's one option, is you can visualize how to set up a proportion, because that's essentially all you're doing. Then what you could have here is X to 16 is an option. X to 16 is to 8. And then just cross multiply, and you're going to get 16 times 16 is 16 squared equals 8x, which gets 16 squared divided by 8, 32. 16 times 16 divided by 8 would be 32. Which you could also tell here that 8 doubled is 16, so if this is 16 double, it's 32. So you could visually see that. But that again only tells us DC. So I would have to add these two together. But if you want to use this shortcut, the altitude gets squared. So this is my altitude. Square 16 and set it equal to piece of hypotenuse times piece of hypotenuse, because this big triangle, this is the hypotenuse AC. So it'd be 8 times 32. No, sorry, that was x. 8 times x, which is exactly, you can see it, exactly the work that I had right here. So you can draw your three triangles, or if you can visualize them on there, great. Or do altitude squared equals piece of hypotenuse times piece of hypotenuse. So we know that that's 32. But 32 plus 8 is what I need. And so that's 40. So the work is easy if you can remember the properties is the problem. All right, number 2, I'm going to just do the shortcut on this because it is so much faster. We have a right triangle. It's got an altitude BD here. So I know these are making 90s. If AD is 15, DC is 12, find the length of BD. So this time my altitude is the unknown. I would have it being squared equals piece of hypotenuse times piece of hypotenuse. So you're simply taking 12 times 15, which is 180, square rooting that. So unfortunately that's not a perfect square, because I'm going to get a decimal. Whoop. And it wants it in simplest radical form. So 180 would be, I've done that one enough, I'm pretty sure 36 times 5. So I'm going to break that up into square root of 36 times square root of 5. Square root of 36 is 6 square roots of 5. Would be this altitude. So again, these are all just similar triangles, or if you can remember, it's altitude squared equals piece times piece of hypotenuse.